everyone, I'm Rebecca with Holly Rustic, and I'm in the studio today to do a tutorial on our gnome craft kit. So you have the stuff to make a gnome out of socks, and you also have the wood and stencil to make a gnome sweet gnome sign. So we're going to kind of go back and forth between the two. I'm going to flip this down so you can see. I've already painted my wood. We want it to be super dry before we start stenciling. So go ahead and do that, and you can pause the video or whatever and let it dry. And then we'll get back to the stencil. So once it's completely dry, you have a stencil here that's 3 layers. On the top layer, you have a piece of tape. The middle layer is a blue vinyl, that's your actual stencil, and on the back is a white piece of paper. So what we want to do is peel this white piece of paper away from the blue stencil. So I usually flip it upside down and then roll it slowly away from the stencil. And you want to make sure that all the centers of your letters stay down. You don't want any of the blue pieces coming up with your white backing. If they do, then just push the paper back down, press on it, and roll it back again. Make sure all the little pieces are on your tape. So once you get that separated, then you're going to flip it over and you're going to center the design on your wood. And make sure you're centering the design and not the actual stencil, because it may not be even all the way around. So I'm going to center the design right there on the wood. Once you do that, don't push it down until you have it where you want it, because once you push it down, it's really hard to get back up all in one piece. So once you're satisfied, then you're going to go ahead and push down the stencil all over your wood. And you can take a credit card or something and kind of smooth it out and make sure it's stuck really good. You want all the pieces down on your wood. Then we're going to peel that tape off. So I just start rolling the tape backwards away from the letters, and do it slowly. And if any of the pieces, like the centers of the letters or anything, come up with your tape, you're going to want to push it back down and make sure they stick to the board. You don't want anything on this piece of tape. You want it all on your board, because that's your stencil. So I'm just going to go over it one more time, make sure all the edges are down really good. Now, the way that I'm going to prevent bleeds underneath my letters is by using the same color that I used on the base and painting over the stencil. So I'm just going to get a little bit of that orange, and I'm using an orange sock, which is why I painted it orange. And I'm just going to put a light coat of paint all over the letters. And this ensures that if the paint bleeds under the stencil, it's just going to bleed orange, because it'll seal those edges. So I'm just going to do a light coat. I'm going to kind of go up and down and side to side, make sure all those edges are sealed really good. There we go. Okay, and then I'm just going to put that to the side and let it dry. Once it dries, we'll go ahead and put our other color on and paint the letters whatever color we want them to be. So I'm going to go ahead and prep my gnome here. You should have 3 socks. I use the solid sock as the body, the polka dots as the hat, and then this is going to hold the rice. So it's easiest to cut these with fabric scissors. You can use whatever scissors you want. I use fabric scissors just because they're sharper. And what you're going to do is kind of cut across each sock right at the heel. And we can always go back and trim them down later, but we don't want to cut them too short. So I'm just going to cut right at the heel, and then we won't be using the top parts of the socks. So these fuzzy socks are really thick here. Kind of hard to cut. That one. Okay, so here's my 3 pieces. I have my gnome fur, little flower. I have a hot glue gun plugged in. You'll want to have one handy. And then you should have a bag of rice. And I felt kind of bad about rice in the kits because it's kind of hard to come by today or these days, which is why you have brown rice. But you can also use polyfill beads. That will work. A little more expensive. And then it might be helpful to get some help here. I'm gonna just put my sock over the opening of the rice and let it fall into the bottom, and I'll probably have to do a little bit at a time. But it should hold pretty much the whole bag. So I'm just gonna put some in and then kind of bang it on the table and make sure it's down at the bottom. And I'll wrap it back around and put some more rice in here. And I usually get rice everywhere. Alright. Wouldn't expect anything different just because I'm doing a video. Oh my goodness. So you'll be able to shape the gnome body once you get all your rice in. This is why I said it's helpful to have somebody else around. It's not wanting to come out. Okay, I'm gonna have to scoop some of this up because that's gonna drive me crazy. Definitely not enough. I should have got a mason jar or something. You can use a red Solo cup or a mason jar to hold your sock. I really want to get as much as you can in there just because it gives more shape to the gnome. Got it all in there. All right. All right, now that I got my gnome sock full, I'm gonna take a little rubber band, which you should have inside your kit. They are clear, so you have to kind of look for them. And I'm just going to wrap that around the top here, just like that. And then I'll kind of shape my gnome a little bit. But we do want to make a nose. So to do that, you want to kind of pinch some of that rice like this. Make sure you still keep the shape of your gnome, but you want your nose to be pretty close to that top rubber band. And grab another rubber band and you're just going to rubber band it around the nose here. There we go. Okay, so that's what it looks like for now. Looks like my wood is dry, so I'm going to kind of flip back over here real quick. Now you should have some sandpaper. Putting that layer of paint on it seals underneath so that your top layer of paint doesn't bleed. But it can also pull the top layer of paint off if it's sealed completely over. So I'm just going to take the sandpaper and I'm going to sand over the letters now just to break that seal on the top of the board, so that it doesn't fill up my top layer of paint. So it still prevents the bleeding, but layer on. So I'm gonna paint my letters pink because I'm using a pink hat for my gnome. Just gonna get a brush here. And then after you sand it and wipe away that dust, just go ahead and put your layer of paint over the letters. You may or may not need a second coat of paint. It just depends what colors you're using. I think I'm gonna be good because that orange was pretty dark underneath. So that's probably gonna be enough. Once it dries, you'll be able to see if there's any spots or anything. We're gonna let it dry some, not completely. So let that sit a minute, and I just realized that I forgot my blush. So we need to put some blush on this gnome nose here. Let me grab it real quick. So this is gonna give it that pink color, and you can use whatever color you want. You can use the brush that comes with the blush, or you can just use a paintbrush. I don't know what happened to the blush brush, so I'm just going to use a paintbrush and kind of brush that onto the nose here. Just want to cover it pretty good. Powder in his nose. Literally. You just put as much as you want on there. All right. Okay, so now we can start working on the body and the hat. So I'm going to take my solid color and I'm going to use it as the body. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this around. And you want it to come up around the nose. So if you need to kind of cut a piece out here so that it wraps around the nose, you can. Looks like mine's gonna wrap without cutting it. And then you're going to take your hot glue and you're going to glue around the top of this nose. So I'm going to put a little glue there. I want this to be up here around the nose, so I'm going to glue both sides here. I probably should have trimmed that a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and cut this little extra piece of the sock off here. And then I'm going to glue this down. Just want that all kind of tucked away, covered up. Alright, it looks like my sign's almost dry. Like I said, we're going back and forth here today so we can get it all done. Now, when you pull your stencil up, you want to go kind of slow and make sure you're pulling away from your letters. So, I'm going to start peeling away from my letters here. Tearing as we go, which is fine. Just make sure if you do still have wet paint on the vinyl that you don't touch the wood anywhere, you'll have a spot. If you work with vinyl or have a Cricut or anything, you probably have a weeder tool. Looks kind of like a dentist tool, a toothpick. You can use that to dig out the centers of your letters. So I'm gonna have to grab one probably in a minute. Apparently I wasn't very prepared today. Let me grab one. So it looks like this, and it has a hook on the end. You can use kind of an, well, like an X-Acto knife or a small craft knife to lift the edges up if you have something like that. That just helps you dig the center pieces out. You just kind of hook the edge and pull. Alright, and that is done. There's a little gnome, sweet gnome sign. That's gonna be cute with my colors here. So I just put that out of the way. I'm gonna go back to my gnome. So I'm gonna do the beard next. Now the beard is probably cut for you a little big, and that's because I want you to make it the size you want, and I want you to have room to trim it down and angle it the way you want it to be. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna cut a little square so that I can pull that beard up around the nose. So right here in the center where the nose is, I'm gonna cut a little square or a half circle here. And again, the fabric scissors make this a lot easier if you have any. And kind of pull that loose fur away. Let's see how that is. So I want it to come up all the way around the nose. So I'm gonna cut a little more out. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and glue around the nose here. And then if it doesn't go all the way up, that's fine. We're gonna put the hat on. That'll cover the rest of it. So clearly my beard is way too long and way too wide. It looks more like the Lorax right now from Dr. Seuss. So I'm gonna cut these edges off. When you cut the fur, you don't wanna cut straight because you're gonna have a weird, awkward cut. You wanna kinda go underneath the beard, underneath the fur, instead of cutting straight, which I just did. So you want to kind of move some of that fur out of the way and slide your scissors underneath. Do both sides. I'm gonna lay this. Just kind of even it up on both sides here. And then I'm gonna cut some off the bottom. When you cut off the bottom, you wanna move some of this fur up and kind of go across that back piece and underneath the fur. See how you don't see my scissors on top of all that fur? If you do that, you're gonna get a straight cut all the way across, and it's not gonna look much like a beard. All right, that's probably good. Okay, so now we're gonna work with the hat. For the hat, you should have some polyfill. You can put as much or as little as you want inside the hat. It just depends on how full you want it. Just gonna stuff that into my polka dotted sock here. Kind of fill that in. And then I'm going to put the heel side towards the back, and I can trim that up if I want to. Once I get it on, I'm just going to glue all the way around here. So just more super glue. Running out. These mini glue guns don't, little glue sticks don't last too long. Alright, so it's glued all the way around. I have some uneven in the back here that flips up. I'm going to use my fabric scissors to kind of trim around that and even it up a little. It's from where the heel was. And then I'm going to, you don't have to do this unless you want to. I like to do it. I'm going to take the end of this little hat here. Make sure there's a little polyfill in it. Make a little ball on the end, like that. And then you have a flower. You can put it wherever you want on the hat. You're just going to glue it. I'm going to put it on the side here towards the bottom. And if you have like a little button or something, you can put it in the center of the flower. We did have some, but I don't see them here. All right, and you have your little sock gnome and your little sun, Gnome Sweet Gnome. All right, well, thank you all for crafting with me today. Really appreciate all the support with the craft kits during this time that we have to have our studio closed. If you have any questions, make sure to contact us. And also you can join the craft crew on Facebook. That's a group where we post different how-tos and tutorials. So thanks again for joining us. Have a great day.